Welcome everyone to the Immersive Metal channel. My name is Thomas. Today we're gonna talk about death metal. So very fitting in the background, some praying mantis-esque mausoleum shit. We're listening to China White Run for cover. Just I believe from 1984 Mausoleum release. It's a UK band. It's kind of that, like I said, praying mantis early new wave vibe. I mean, they're kind of late for the new wave, but it still has a like sound, that more mellow sound. You'll hear this in the background. Yeah, I like listening stuff like it's getting spring, and I always like listening to stuff like this in spring. Feels fitting to me, whatever. Got a nice classic Dr. Pepper here. We're just gonna do a music in the background, talk, show, whatever. So death metal is kind of going crazy right now. I blame Steve SNT Young. He talked about fucking death metal from 1991, and suddenly everyone talks death metal. But this is a response to, which is also like going around at the same time, to Metal Mickey, who showed or talked about 10 albums that got him into death metal. And usually with these videos, what I always see is that people talk about 10 death metal albums, but if you're showing 10 death metal albums, you're already in, right? So it's more like 10 albums that lead up to listening to death metal, or how you got in. I've seen some responses to this morning. I was watching like Analog Archives, Dennis, his video, just fantastic. The stories and whatever the shit he's showing, top-notch channel. He even did a response to my Know Your Collection thread, which I forgot to respond. Sorry, Dennis. Fantastic video. But Steve also did a response, also fantastic. I mean, the whole death metal thing going on. Jürgen and everyone is doing a video on death metal now, so I'll jump on it too. Maybe I even do a fucking favorite, like top 10 favorite death metal albums. I've never done that one, so. And some people in the comment section of my few latest videos, like a handful of people, not more than 5, but I get comments that I talk too much. What else should I fucking do in these videos than fucking talk? I talk too much, I yap too much, I speak Japanese. But that's what you're gonna get on this channel. That's who I am. I don't know what else you fucking expect. If you don't like it, don't watch it. So 10 albums that led up to getting into death metal, that got me into death metal. I'm just yapping 4 minutes already. 10 albums that led up to listening to death metal. Well, I have a specific memory of 2 albums, because it was about 2012, 2013 that I really fell in the rabbit hole of thrash metal. It started like late 2011. So I really fell in the rabbit hole of like thrash metal, and eventually it was about 2012-13 that you get to your second and third tier thrash metal, and eventually I checked everything out with like a cool cover art, and I remember 2 specific albums, these 2, Leprosy and Piece of Time. I mean, both are like Ed Repka artworks, which really like fits perfectly in that line of like great cover arts. Think of like Toxic, Think This and shit like that. So I was intrigued, trying to listen to it, check it out, and I like what I heard, but there was something off. It was a bit heavier, a bit darker. Then the vocals kicked in. I couldn't handle it. At that time, I could not handle the vocals. They were just too extreme, too much. This one also. I just was so overwhelmed by the vocals. It took me a while, but that's what we're here going to talk about today here. The road that led up to death metal. So I got 5 albums that kind of made me warm for more extreme stuff, and 5 death metal albums that were like the first 5 that I ever really got into. So, like 2010, 2011, I was like a casual, old school heavy metal fan. You know, it was a time where Metallica was still my favorite band, and you kind of get to know more the second layer of 80s thrash. You know, you discover Overkill and Testament and shit like that. Then I saw this I was always listening to music on YouTube, and they would always recommend stuff that I was listening to heavy metal all the time, so they recommend you more heavy metal, and I saw this getting recommended a lot. When this came out, people were afraid of this shit, but I can tell you from the perspective of this whole thing is from the perspective of a newer fan who has, because of the internet, access to everything. But still, for a young guy like me, I saw this recommended and I was like, hell no. This shit was scary. Slayer was like my tolerance, and this just looked spooky as fuck. But one night, I remember it very well, one night, I decided to click on this. It just felt wrong. This I wasn't aware, I wasn't into the whole satanic spooky stuff. So I was kind of fucking nervous listening to this. But it turned out it's just an amped up new wave of British heavy metal sound or band. And I fell in love with this album. So this was kind of the first real extreme album that I got into. I was already listening to shit like Ride the Lightning, Exhumer, Possessed by Fire, Testament, Legacy, stuff like that. But this really, the barking vocals really opened that door for me. Along with that came this one, Sentence of Death, specifically the song Total Disaster. That song just captured me. It was so much more extreme than the polished Bay Area stuff I was used to. Total Disaster, that fucking song, the chorus, it was so wild, it just, and so intriguing, and what's the word, kind of elusive. I would look at this and who are these guys? What are they doing? You're from fucking Germany. Look at those bullet belts and braces and whatever. Holy shit, this is extreme. So yeah, this really opened another door for me. Everyone is showing Pleasure to Kill, which obviously helped me too, but this one, and especially the song Total Disaster, really made a different impact on me. Meanwhile, as I was falling into that thrash rabbit hole more and more, for the whole duration of 2012, this was my most listened to album the whole fucking year. Continuously listening to this so much. This definitely an all-time favorite thrash album, but this one again, that extreme or more raw German sound really set the bar a step higher. Especially like the faster stuff, just Bullets, for example, just the speed that you don't really get with bands like Overkill. It's just another layer of how extreme they took it. So yeah, this really started to warm me up for like the more aggressive, raw sound. This one is another one that pretty much everyone was fucking showing. But yeah, I mean, this one, I think, opened the door for so many fucking people to the heavier side. I think, yeah, like I said, I was watching the video from Dennis Analog Archives, and he described this album as, it was almost like the Deicide debut without Glenn Benton's fucking insane vocals. Which I started thinking about and was like, yeah, kind of does. A little milder, but I could see what he meant. But yeah, just this is just fucking... It's not death thrash, but I could really see this like a huge inspiration for a lot of death metal bands, especially like the riffs. Fucking Black Prophecies, that chugging. Yeah, love this fucking album. Great one. You know, it's stuff like this and the Assassin album that really starts to warm you up for stuff. And I mean, from thrash to death metal is like a very logical progression. I mean, it's where it came from. Just stepping it up a notch every time. And one of these albums that really made like the bridge for me, from what I remember. This one really helped as well, because this one yet again took it up a notch. Not necessarily like the vocals are like heavy, but I mean more like the heaviness in the songwriting. I mean, take the fucking song SOS, Satan Our Savior. The fucking blast beats. This is like yet another like step of thrash metal. I wouldn't call this again necessarily death thrash, but it definitely is on the heavier side of thrash metal. Just yet again another step of extreme, like taking it up that notch. Overlord, just fucking pounding heavy. None shall defy, like the weird songwriting and the heavy riffs, just heavy. Another level of heaviness that the other bands like didn't really have, like the speed, aggression. This, yeah, is a perfect bridge to like death metal and thrash metal. It's perfectly comfortable in between there. And when I showed all these albums, meanwhile, the two albums that I talked about in the beginning, I checked like this was Meanwhile, and I was like, nah, that's way too heavy. So those were the 5 albums that kind of warmed me up for the more extreme stuff. And from what I remember, the first death metal album that I really like started to get into and really started to listen. I'll give you a few seconds to make a guess. My first death metal album. Yeah. Sound of Perseverance was the first death metal album that I got really into. I cannot tell you why. Well, it's a good album. I was not aware of really any death metal, whatever. And I think it was the song, The Voice of the Soul, that really pulled me, like the instrumental, a beautiful song that really pulled me in. And then, I don't know, this time around, because I showed Leprosy was too extreme for me, this time around, I mean, Chuck's vocals are a lot higher on this one, but they clicked. They clicked. Maybe because it was less guttural and a little bit more high-pitched. But yeah, this clicked. Scavenger of Human Sorrow, Spirit Crusher, Flesh and the Power It Holds. Yeah, this one, I really started to get into this one. My first death metal album, Sound of Perseverance. Meanwhile, another album that I came across that really started to pull me in. Remember, maybe it's a weird selection, but like I said in the beginning, this is from the perspective from someone who has access to everything because of the internet. Because a lot of you guys talk from the perspective of back in the day when you were there, which is fucking awesome, by the way. I love these stories. So my journey is a little different, might seem a little odd, but remember, it's a different perspective, different time. But from what I remember, this is the second album that I really started to warm up to. Sarcophago, The Laws of Scourge. Might be a big jump from Sound of Perseverance to this one, because this one is quite extreme, knowing Sarcophago. But again, the songs here are, it's still like very, very thrashy, very aggressive, like that aggressive thrash sound that I was starting to warm up to. And meanwhile, because it's only 10 albums that were shown here, but remember that meanwhile, before this, I also discovered stuff like kind of like Pleasure to Kill, Spectrum of Death, stuff like that. The more extreme stuff was also getting in meanwhile, so this was the next step. But yeah, this one again, it fucking clicked. Laws of Scourge, Piercings, Midnight Queen. Midnight Queen really did it, really sold the album for me. Screeches from the Silence as well, that fucking guitar solo, that guitar melody, fucking fantastic. Prelude to a Suicide, The Black Vomit. Just fantastic album. I love this album. It's so good. Yeah, really aggressive, just straightforward fucking aggression. Another one. Meanwhile, it's like 2014 in my metal journey. This one came along. Again, Piece of Time didn't click when I first heard it, but this one did. I will switch the record. Give me a second. So yeah, Unquestionable Presence. I think it's like more melodic than Piece of Time. Piece of Time is like more aggressive, aggressive, more harsh. Um, but this one, it feels like more melodic. It's more technical, obviously. It's also very groovy. I think that made it easier for me to digest as well. Unquestionable Presence, Your Life's Retribution, Enthralled in Essence, just fucking the guitar parts on that just so good. Yeah, very groovy shit. And from this point, I really started to warm up to death metal. Another one that really helped me, again, death. Death is just the perfect gateway to death metal. Spiritual Healing, so goddamn catchy. So like the riffs on here are like, it's more basic threat of or death metal. I mean, especially compared to like Unquestionable Presence. But again, it's very like, I wouldn't say groovy, but just very, very fucking catchy. Defensive Personalities is probably my favorite song of this track. Just that main riff is so fucking good, so heavy, so catchy, so fucking... Yeah. Title track Spiritual Healing, a fucking classic, really helped me getting pulled into this album as well. Living Monstrosity, Freak for Life will always be, love it. Altering the Future, yeah, Within the Mind, just an absolute classic. And this one, I mean, I went back to the other death stuff, but this one really got stuck. This one got the most listens. It's just so fucking catchy, just so fucking catchy. Probably my favorite death album as well, Spiritual Healing. And then the album that really sealed the deal, which really got me into death metal, that opened the doors, all doors. I was officially into death metal after this album. Don't really need to say anything about this album. It's just legendary, fucking legendary album. It's still so very thrashy, which really helped it sell to me, made it easier. It's so thrashy and so harsh and so aggressive, and the A side is just fucking perfection. Perfect death metal, thrashy, aggressive, relentless. Just a blast beats on this album, fantastic. Yeah, so good. This really did it for me. I was like, yeah, I'm into death metal now. So there were like 10 albums. 10 albums that really got me into death metal, and from this point on, I just went from one rabbit hole to another. Still one foot in the thrash, which is still how I like my death metal, still like on the thrashy side, the more old school stuff. And I'm comfortable here. I mean, the more like over the top, technical, brutal shit. Man, doesn't really do much for me anymore. It's still that old school thrashy stuff that really does it for me. Fucking love it. So yeah, that was my little journey on how I really got into death metal, or warmed up to death metal. I will probably do another video of my top 10 favorite death metal albums, but I'm really enjoying everyone's videos right now. So Mike and Steve, thank you very much. Yeah, let me know if you want to see fucking top 10 death metal albums, favorites. I might even do a retake on my top 10 favorite thrash metal albums, which I did like 4 years ago when I just started the channel. But yeah, it was fun. I re-listened some of these albums. It was a fun trip back. I mean, for me, it's not as many years as for most of you guys. Like I said, I really started to get into this like more extreme stuff late 2011, 2012, 13. For me, that's already quite a journey. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, this little story of mine, this little rambling. I hope I didn't talk too much. Yeah, if you decide to leave a comment like that, just don't bother and fuck off. But for the people who do like watching my videos, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. I fucking love it. You guys are the best. Keep talking about death metal. I'm discovering some new stuff as well, so keep talking death metal. I'll be listening. I'll be finishing off this record. You guys take care. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.